Yeah, the EU, I think, really formed one of the starkest contrasts between these two candidates, and it was really summed up in one particular exchange where Macron said that the best route for the French people to have sovereignty and to be independent in the face of the world's aggressive global powers is a strong European Union. Le Pen responded that there can be no European sovereignty because there is no European people, there's only French people. And that really summed up, I think, the difference between these two people when you look at what they were saying about the European Union. Now, Le Pen, of course, is insisting that she's no longer calling for Frexit. That is unpopular with the French people and proved to be a vote loser in 2017. However, Macron's response was that what she's calling for is Frexit in all but name. And her idea to kind of change the European Union from the inside would inevitably lead to a conflict, particularly between France and its Western European partners in the European Union. He said that the European Union is a partnership and France just can't dictate what it is. Now, a lot of the arguments that Le Pen was making last night will have seemed very familiar to British people who lived through the Brexit debate, and certainly here in Brussels these arguments sounded familiar. At one point she was saying that Macron is EU-centric, Europe-centric, and that she, by contrast, wants a global France, a France that reaches out to the whole world and in particular reaches out to its former colonies in Africa. That, of course, is very similar to the global Britain argument that Brexit backers were making both before the referendum and still today, and also this idea of cherry-picking the benefits of EU membership without having the sacrifices of EU membership or following the rules of EU membership. Macron pointed out that if France won't let other Europeans live in France, then French people can't live in other EU countries, such as here in Belgium, where they do constitute the largest foreign population.
Dave, how do you think then the outcome of the debate will go down there, amid fears, of course, amongst European leaders, particularly of a far right-wing leader in the Élysée Palace here in Paris?
Well, obviously, people here in Brussels are quite worried about the prospect of a Le Pen presidency. I think they will be relieved that while Le Pen certainly performed better last night than she did in the debate in 2017, Macron didn't have any major slip-up, and she didn't hit it out of the park. And so I think the expectation is that Macron's lead will continue to grow. But that being said, I think people in Brussels were really watching closely to get a sense of what a Le Pen presidency would really mean for the European Union. And she did get a little more clear about that in response to Macron saying that France can't just dictate, they need to work with the partners. She said she would work with allies, with her allies in the European Union to change the EU. And she was certainly talking about the governments of Poland and Hungary, with whom she's very close. But the problem is that alliance between Poland and Hungary is very frayed at the moment because of the issue of Ukraine. The Polish government is very anti-Russian, and the Hungarian government has been quite pro-Russian, and the Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been threatening to veto EU sanctions against Russia. Le Pen is very much in the Orban line there, and that issue of her relations with Russia came up several times in that debate last night. And so this idea of an axis between France, Poland, and Hungary against France's Western European neighbors, even that is under great question right now, because if Orban does veto, for instance, an embargo on Russian oil next week, it could blow up that V4 alliance between Hungary and Poland, and then there's no access for her to join with those Eastern European partners. So a lot of those details is what people were really looking for, I think, here in Brussels.
Dave, thanks very much. Dave Keating, our correspondent, talking to us live there from Brussels.